Welcome to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. I am Greg Malinzuk along with Bob Wiltman. How are you today, sir?
I'm just doing great, Greg. Thanks so much. Got a lot to talk about.
We do.
All sorts of neat things happened over the week. Not so neat. I shouldn't say neat, but not the neatest things in the world. But where do you want to get started? We can certainly go into who's the MVP candidates for the baseball league. But I'd like to talk a little bit about the. I'm going to call it the backlash, or the not related backlash. But this whole thing has gone far enough with the linking our arms together and kneeling for the national anthem and not standing.
Right.
I'm going to say this, and hopefully we got some people that'll share their opinions. Our phone number is 352-315-1410. It's not a black and white. It's not a rich and poor. And I'm so tired of people trying to categorize it as such.
Right.
It is. I'm a capitalist. I'm for everybody making as much money as they. I don't care how much money you make. If you can get X amount of dollars, that's great. But what I don't understand is I've got guys linking their arms and being interviewed, and I figured it out. The one guy's making $250,000 per punt return. And that's nothing. That's fine. But to stand there and say that this country doesn't afford opportunities to people, and that's why you're protesting, opportunities to people. You're getting $3 million a year to return a punt.
Yeah.
You think you're going to get that in Yemen? The fact of the matter is that there's no oppression there.
I think you'll be beheaded in Yemen.
Yeah. I'm amazed that nobody can figure out. There's going to be a quote unquote, I hate these predictions. I suspect there's going to be a backlash to this. People aren't going to watch the games as much. Oh, there will be people that still buy tickets because they've never gone to a game. And, ooh, you're selling your tickets too. Well, I'm going to go. But the interest is going to decline. And it's not going to decline because of anything other than these players not realizing this isn't about rights.
Right.
It's about you relate to me. In 10 years, if I make $350,000 working 10 years, and you make it catching 2 punts, and you're going to protest to me how bad you've got it,
right?
I'm gonna leave you.
Yeah.
That, to me, in a nutshell, is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's like back in the Vietnam War with the flower children, the irony, flower children putting little flowers in guns that soldiers are holding, and as their way of protesting the war. I noticed that nobody seemed to teach them that the only reason they're able to do that is because somebody was out losing their life and putting their life on the line for those people to have the right to stand there with their little dandelions and stick it in. But
right.
That doesn't seem to sink in. Or nobody wants to talk about it media-wise.
Yeah.
And that just frustrates me. And is the football and NFL going to survive without me? Absolutely. But I'm not going to watch another game. And I'm doing sports shows.
Yeah.
I can look at the stats.
Sure.
I can read the papers, but what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to support it. And meaning I'm not buying any tickets. I'm not going to watch. And yeah, they'll laugh. Who cares? But the fact of the matter is, I think there's a gazillion people out there like me.
Yeah.
I'm hoping there are, because that way maybe the message will get across.
Right.
And we'll not worry about rights of players to say and do what they want. They have the right to do whatever they want. But
well, my contention is when people say that they have the right to do what they want, they don't have the right to do it in an NFL stadium.
In an NFL stadium, you're right.
And what I don't
That's
see,
exactly right.
I see these guys, here's what's galling to me, and I agree with everything you said, and my add-on to this is what's galling to me is that if they're so worked up about all this, then put your money where your mouth is. Why isn't Colin Kaepernick going into those communities like Chicago who are being slaughtered by black on black
murders?
It's horrid, and I don't see anybody going into those communities and saying, hey, this is wrong, and I'm gonna be on the ground. I would respect that, and I would respect that. Hey, if even went, I think part of this was the St. Louis incident with
Yes.
a police officer. I think this is what started this whole thing.
Yeah, I guess.
And I would respect those players if they went to St. Louis and they actually made an appearance. But that's the bad part of town, and they no longer reside in the bad part of town. They're millionaires.
That's right.
That live in gated communities and fly on private jets and are even though they are millionaires, they go to restaurants and eat for free. I mean, the disconnect to me is absolutely mind-boggling.
Well, it is. The disconnect is a very good word for what it is, but it's happening because there is the messages are getting mixed.
Right.
I don't know what they're standing, or is it against Trump? Is it against treatment of blacks in communities? Is it a treatment? Is it because of unequal pay? There's an assumption out there that they're the unequal pay. I get lost. And then when you interview them all, they all give you a different reason. One actually said they're protesting the Puerto Rico. I went, Puerto Rico?
Right.
I said, now I am lost. But the fact of the matter is, nobody is questioning, and this is to every pundit out there, that nobody's questioning anybody's right. Where you do it, you don't have a right to do it where you
Right.
want to do
And
it. You have a right to do it, but you don't have the right to come into my house and set up a TV camera and start saying bad things about. You don't have that right.
Hey,
you don't. You can say whatever you want. You just don't have the right to come into my house and do it.
I'm gonna bore the audience with
Good.
some history.
All right.
Because, and this goes on a lot. What brings this up for me is I was looking at these Sports Illustrated articles that are just over the top and lecturing and,
Yes.
and condescending, and it is really incredible where Sports Illustrated is. But we'll talk about what I want to bring up is the Boston Massacre.
Sure.
I think it was like
Crispus Attucks.
Right, 1774.
Yeah,
and a lot of people point to, this tradition goes right back to, 1774.
Not done.
Well, let me just tell you what happened in in the Boston Massacre. You had protesters that were shot by British soldiers. And so this is supposed to be this big, great historical thing. Well, you know what happened afterwards? John Adams, future president of the United States, was actually the lawyer who defended the British soldiers.
Yeah.
And he got them all acquitted. Nobody brings that up.
No.
That actually those protesters, in the eyes of the law, were wrong.
Wrong. Yeah.
And even though
have
John
a right-
Adams was a revolutionary, he was not yet fully in it, because the Boston Massacre was part of some of the incidents that were occurring, that started the revolution. But the law is the law. I mean, we're a nation of laws, and
No, well, unfortunately, it's now a nation of interpretations
Right.
of laws.
Right.
And, but more to the point, I mean, if I heard one more person talking about somebody's rights,
right.
and I said, nobody's questioning anybody's right.
I'm
questioning the right to how you're doing it.
Here's another misinterpretation of the First Amendment and the freedom of speech. That has to do with the government stopping individuals from voicing their opinion. It has absolutely nothing to do with businesses or other people or somebody in my living room.
That's my point.
I could throw you out of my living room if I don't like what you say. You actually have no right.
You have the right to say it, but not where you want to say it.
You have the right to say it, but there's consequences to what you say.
That's right.
So if you're in my living room, I get to throw you
You're
out.
That's
if
right.
you're in the NFL stadium, they have the right to throw you out.
Now, will they? No.
Well, they
should.
they should. But they've made a mess of this, and they're trying to backtrack. And,
Yes.
and I know you're a Pittsburgh fan.
It's horrible.
And there's a lot of well, this one article I was reading out of Pittsburgh was that these shops, these NHL or NFL shops, actually have been saying that they are being hurt by people not buying their jerseys and stuff.
Sure. Well, but what a surprise.
Yeah.
But like I said, and again, as we always find a way, I think I mentioned to you off the air, just as I think we should all be appalled, whether you voted for Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, you should be appalled that the world, as it was presented to you, had determined, the media determined that was a one-way wipeout.
Right.
And where were the apologies?
Right.
It's not, nobody apologized and said, "Whoa, we got this wrong." They said, well, they try to figure out, what underhanded thing was going. Nothing was. You guys just, it never occurred to you that you might lose, so you got lazy and didn't cover Trump, and then all of a sudden he wins, and now you're mad, and so you're trying to figure out, what do we get shafted? And nobody gets shafted.
Well,
you gotta cover both sides of it. You can't have an agenda and stick to it, and then when it doesn't go your way, go, well. But that's what it's happening again. Right here is what's happening with the Trump thing.
Right.
But they can't accept the fact that people are going to backlash this. They're going to act like there's something wrong with the people. There's nothing wrong with the people.
Right.
There's something wrong with how you guys are interpreting it. We got a lot to talk about on this, and like I said, I know it's old news, but by the same token, it's something that needs to be discussed because I will kick in my TV set. I do not watch the games anymore,
Right.
and I actually watch some sports shows just to get caught up with scores.
Sure.
But that makes me infuriated too.
Yeah.
So there, yeah.
You're listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. We're sponsored by Bill Bryan, Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. They're located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. And their phone number is 352-787-2223. Our phone number here is 352-315-1410 if you want to get in on the action. We'll be right back after these messages. We are back with the Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. And we are talking some NFL nonsense.
Yeah, NFL nonsense, and we can put this to bed real quick. But I was curious to get your take on how the endurance of this quote unquote backlash, because I think that it's going to be significant, and I'm not rooting for it necessarily, although it would probably make me smile to see it. To me, it's what the people want. If nobody cares about it, that's a shame. But nobody cares about it.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, we're gonna see all sorts of tap dancing. I noticed that somebody, and this is where we are as a society. Somebody.
Oh, they're tap dancing right now.
I know, but with Kaepernick. I remember when he seems like 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But when he did it, and everybody, and there was the same backlash against him that there is now, in
Right.
my humble opinion.
Yeah.
You got some nerve protesting this country, which is giving you the right to make $7-8 million a year for playing football at a mediocre level.
Right.
I might add, but that's beside the point. But it's just I don't know if people are going to remember or forget, but it's just.
Hey, I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Because here's one of the arguments is that they're blacklisting Colin Kaepernick.
No,
He should be.
He's not blacklisted at all.
Let me ask you this question: the Michigan coach, who was his coach with San Francisco, it slips my mind.
Oh,
Harbaugh.
the brother, Harbaugh, yeah.
Right. If Harbaugh recognized that Colin Kaepernick was, because he had him when he was young, first or second year. I
Yeah.
think
Okay.
if he recognized that this guy was like a potential Tom Brady, do you think he would have went to Michigan?
I think that. Well, that's one way to look at it.
Well, because I mean the whole thing fell apart, or was falling apart when he left town.
Well, you're right, and I think your point's well taken. The point I wanted to really make about Kaepernick is, and this is the way it is, and people got to realize this. You've got agents, you got PR people, and they're all saying, "Oh, but he gave $1 million." He gave nothing until somebody came up to him and said, "Hey, lunkhead, you've really put yourself in a big stew here.
Right.
You better take a significant amount of money and pass it around." He said, and he's still where is he now during all this?
Yeah,
nobody wants to interview him, I guess.
I don't know, but you know something. You know, he said he gave money. I don't see anybody out there going, thanks for helping us out. Well, I haven't seen that.
I just want to know what the connection is. I have such a real problem with everything in this day of tweets and twits and everything else, and trying to figure out what people want. What do you got for me?
We got Coach Oates.
Oh, you're kidding me.
On
That's
the line.
fantastic.
Can you hear us, Coach?
Yes, I hear you.
That's
Okay,
what we
great.
wanted to. I'll tell you what, Coach. So you had a buzzsaw, but that, from what I can tell, that team's about as good as you're going to see in these parts. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, they're very good. They're very talented. They're loaded. They have a lot of talent.
Give me a report card of your. I think you're almost at the halfway point, but what? Give me some grades. But maybe you don't do that, but tell me where you think your team's really, really shining and where they're maybe not performing up to snuff at this point.
Well, first and foremost, I think my coaches are doing a good job in preparing the kids from a scheme standpoint. Our guys are where they need to be. We just don't always make the play. Going into the season, looking at the schedule, after 5 games, 2 and 3, that's about where, I guess we're supposed to be. I could see us being 3 and 2 right now.
Sure.
I really wanted that Eustis game. I felt like that was a game we could win. And after 5 games, if we were 3 and 2, I think we'd be ahead of schedule. But all the goals that we set for ourselves at the beginning of the season are still attainable.
Well, I'll tell you what, it doesn't get any more candid than that. I was curious, how do you feel about the basics? Are you blocking and tackling and executing up to standards, or you still think you're a little behind where you want to be there?
Well, the things we can control, I think we're doing.
Great.
I mean, there's no coaching. I can't make my guys bigger as far as, we can get stronger in time through the weight room.
You can do it, but I wouldn't do it the way everybody else is doing. That's right. They're good.
Yeah, from a statue standpoint, I can't make guys 6'4", 260. So, but my guys are playing hard. I told you guys before, I wouldn't trade these kids that I could get to coach every day for nobody in the state. These kids show up every day with a good attitude. They're great kids. I love them, and I think they love me. And we're just going to show up on Monday, try to get better at what we do, and try to be prepared to play Tavares on Friday.
How about the injury bug? How's your health? How's the team's health?
Overall, we're getting a little beher. This time of the year, you're going to have little nicks and bruises, but I think we're okay. We did lose a JV kid, Thursday night. He had a fracture in his leg. And torn from his kneecap, but he had surgery yesterday, and he's in good spirits. But from a varsity standpoint, other than some bruises, we're pretty good.
Well, that's fantastic. Okay, so break down the rest of the campaign. You say you got Tavares coming up. What are your expectations versus Tavares?
Well, Tavares is a much improved team. You know, I coached and taught over at Tavares for the first half of last year, so a lot of those kids I know, and I know the coaches, and I know the coaches have dedicated themselves to turn that program around. So you have to tip your hat to Coach Armati and his staff. The challenges that Tavares will present, they have a very high-octane running game.
Oh, boy.
Their kid, Pat Walker, who was a student of mine last year. I mean, he is a tremendous young man, not just a good football player, but he's the type of kid that you'd be proud to call your son. And so he's tough. He's the type of kid that would look good in orange and black, but he's wearing red and white, so we're going to have to try to take care of him. But they're tough. They're good. They're well coached, and they're believing in themselves right now. So, again, you have to tip your hat to Coach Armati and his staff for the turnaround over there. I'm very proud of those kids, and I'm very proud of their coaches over there. Like I said, as being a former co-worker and a former teacher of the kids, it's good to see them making that turnaround. But Friday night, we're going to see if we can, put a little roadblock there, a little bump in the road for them.
I think that would be spectacular. In fact, how has Tavares done against mutual opponents? I mean, do you have any measuring stick that you can? Not that's how football works. But
not really.
Yeah.
And you can't really.
No, I understand.
You get in trouble when you start trying to do that.
Sure.
It comes down to matchups and what you do as opposed to what they do. I just know Tavares is going to show up and play hard. We played them back in the preseason at the Jamboree. We played them for a half, and they beat us 13-12. So,
holy mackerel! This could be one heck of a game.
Yeah, it should be a good game. And it's a few miles down the road. The kids know each other. The coaches know each other. So it should be fun, and hopefully both teams will come out, play their best, and come out injury free.
Question for you, Coach. Any the players that you want to, and I'm sure they're listening, but that you want to maybe single out as doing some special things or things above and beyond what your expectations were in the last couple games?
Well, in the Forest game, I thought Jatavian Solomon really stepped it up at running back. Rashawn Scott and TJ Manuel did a great job from the backfield blocking.
Great.
Kyle Cottom had a good game defensively, probably the best game he's had all season. And just all the guys, it's a group effort.
Sure.
We had a great week of practice a week before last. We had a very good week of practice this past week. That game last night was won 17 years ago. DNA played a role in that one. So, but again, my guys, I love them. They show up with good attitudes, and as I said, I hate to be redundant, but I wouldn't trade them for anybody. And if the good Lord blesses me to show up Monday, we're gonna step on that field and start preparing and try to get a little better, and hopefully I can give them a little more of me to help them get to where they want to go.
I'll tell you what, if that works out, that would be a special, because I'll tell you what, Coach, we really appreciate win or lose. You're not afraid to come in and face the questions and face the music, and you're always. We appreciate you being sincere, being very candid with us, and tell me a little bit now. Is the game at home this Friday?
Yes, we'll be at H.O. Dabney Stadium, and we want all our Yellow Jacket fans to come out in full force and make some noise. And I promise you, as a coaching staff, we're going to work hard to make sure those guys can go out there Friday night at 7 o'clock and give those people who pay their hard-earned money something good to look at. And, I'm just blessed, man. God has blessed me to be doing what I've always wanted to do. I was telling someone the other day, for the first time in my life, I go to sleep at night eager to get up and come to work the next morning. I love my job. I love these kids. I love Leesburg High School. I love our administration. I love the city of Leesburg. And it's a blessing to be able to put on that orange and black. And we're gonna get it. We're gonna get things where they need to be, and we won't stop until we're there.
Well, that I think that's fantastic. I don't know that you owe people wins or losses, because sometimes that's way beyond anybody's control. But what you owe them is a good show where everybody comes out and plays to the best of their abilities, and you let the chips fall from there.
Right, and as a competitor, you want to win every game. But as a man with who I think has some decent intelligence and some common sense, sometimes you just have to tip your hat to your opponent. I mean, sometimes the other team is just better. People always want an explanation of why you lost or how you lost. Sometimes it's as simple as the other team was better.
They played better. Yeah.
The other coaching staff did a better job preparing their kids.
Right.
There's a lot of things. Sometimes it's as simple as luck. But, we're just going to, as I keep saying, we're going to keep working. Nobody has their head down. All our goals are still attainable. So we just have to keep fighting and see what happens.
Coach Oates, we thank you very much for taking the time with us. And let's get out there next Friday and take on Tavares, and we'll give it everything we got. How's that?
Thanks for having me, and go Jackets.
Hey, thank you so
Coach.
Much, Coach. Take care, pal.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Coach Randy Oates, that's fantastic stuff. He's not afraid to say what he thinks
That's
and
right.
tell it like it is, which I think is fantastic. So the music's playing, so get us out and we'll get back with more of our gripes.
All right, we'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. All right, we are back with Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, sponsored by Bill Bryant, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. And that was Coach Oates.
Coach Oates, who always comes and tells it like it is. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Obviously, the man's got a great foundation to him, and he would be the type of guy that I think I would run through a brick wall for if I was playing for him.
Yes.
Because he leads by example, and I just think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about how everything makes him look. He's all about preparing and playing as a team, and I agree with him 100%. Sometimes it's I've played in some tennis tournaments. I think I got beat like 1-on-1 and I can't play any better. Somebody said, "Oh, you got killed." I said,
right.
"That's as good as I can play."
Yeah.
I said, "I can play that guy 800 times. I'm going to lose 6-1, 6-0 probably if I'm not playing well." It's just amazing. Sometimes, and we don't do that as a society or as a competitor sometimes. We want to talk about what we did wrong as opposed to what the other team allowed us to do.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference, and there's a huge difference. And if you played enough team sports, you know that's the case. And he's right. I liked what he said. But we lived 17 years to DNA. That's a very accurate analysis of what you're facing sometimes.
Sure is.
That being the case, but and I you know what, and we talked about off the air. Maybe I was going to bring up to the coach about the sit down. You know what? But that's not his that's not his problem. That's not his question and answer. He's got to prepare his kids to play a football game. So we have to get into the talk show mentality of trying to find out exactly what's going on with everybody. But the fact of the matter is, the backlash will either come or not come. I think it's going to. But if it starts, I just hope we don't hear about how wrong everybody else is. Yeah. Instead of what they could have done better to avoid this whole mess.
So I'm scrolling through Facebook the other day, and there's a lot of comments on what's going on in the NFL. Yeah. And so I'm scrolling through on my phone, and then I see a picture of Tanya Harding and and Nancy Kerrigan sitting there with their skates on.
Why?
And then the caption was, "When taking a knee meant something."
But bum. Yeah. Okay. Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding. Doesn't that take you back?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I just thought that was funny.
There's all sorts of ways to compete for a medal. hire somebody to break your opponent's legs. It's always a good one.
Crack him in the kneecap.
Yeah, you can't beat that. But that being said, and that's a big story. But just as big as the NFL backlash story, and I know nobody's talking about backlash, is the college basketball scandal.
Yes, and this is a point I wanted to make about Donald Trump. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell the audience here, and they may turn off their radio, but I like Donald Trump. And one of the reasons I like Donald Trump is, and really it's the only reason, boy, he is exposing the corruption everywhere in government. And I think, both Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure.
And, I understand that this investigation of the college sports started before the Trump administration.
Sure.
But it's certainly come to light, and more institutional corruption that's being exposed. And I think it's a good thing.
Well, it's a good thing. I don't know if we can give him credit for that or not.
No,
I think
understand that,
think the fact with as you were just talking about with the tweets and the
Right.
the tweets and the Facebooks and everything else and YouTube and everybody taking pictures of everything under the sun.
Right.
There's going to be a little more corruption exposed.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I voted for Donald Trump too, and I have nothing against the man personally. If his name would have been Greg Mallinser, could have voted for
Right.
him. I just didn't want a political
Right.
party.
And that's exactly
person.
my point too.
Yeah,
And it just shows you, though, the institutional corruption of our government is that everybody in the government hates him. That's why I don't understand why, like, the average. Well, actually, I think the average person does like him, but
I agree with you.
these New York,
people
and
that get
California,
their opinions off the media
Yeah.
are not going to like him
Right.
because they're not going to get anything good off
Right.
it. There's people that really depend on everything that they
Right.
they go on the internet, they go on and they're looking and looking and looking.
Yeah.
And if
And-
they do that, they're not going to like him.
So that's I just wanted to bring that up because I
Yeah.
think this institutional corruption is
Well, it's good.
insidious, and it's both parties, and it's about time that these people are called out for what they really are. Professional politicians that become incredibly wealthy and never have a real job in their entire life.
And I
Tired
want
of that.
I just want to throw this off to you. You're right about exposing the corruption, but what I'm afraid, and I really am afraid of this, as a society. I mean, I can even see as we're going to get into the NBA thing.
Right.
Here's how you stop all of this. Just pay the players, and I think but that's so lazy.
Right.
You can be for paying the players and not paying the players, but nobody's going to say we got to crack down. We got to get to the bottom of why people aren't paying attention to. No, we're just going to act like just like everything else we do. We're going to lower the bar and say, "Oh, it's not a problem now."
Yeah.
It's not because
Right.
everybody's going to get money, and I think it takes the innocence out of the game. Not that there's that
Yeah.
much left, but it really bothers me, and I will tune out those. I mean. College basketball I used to love, but I suspect that there was crap like this going on
Right.
all the time. And the fact of the matter is, that turns me off too. I can, and I don't know if I'm in a big minority or not. I can exist just fine without it.
Yeah.
But I find it heartbreaking because it's easy to address, not easy to solve.
Right.
But it's easy to address, and nobody's trying to address it. They're trying, let's change the laws.
Right.
Let's change this so that's not a problem. Please, just enforce the laws. Is it that hard?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. And I think you said Trump is exposing it,
Right.
and he's for enforcing the laws that are being broken.
Yeah.
That's great. To me, hate him, love him, that's great. That's what I want. That's what I want a president to do.
Yeah.
And like I said, not a cheap shot at Obama. But one of the things I used to get frustrated with past President Obama is I'm looking and I'm seeing that there's and he's from Chicago.
Right.
And I'm seeing all these murders in Chicago, and I'm seeing all these pregnancies. He's got the pulpit, grab the microphone and say, okay,
Right.
I'm talking to all of the teenage girls out there, black, white, whoever. Knock it off.
Yeah.
But he could have done it, but he won't.
Yeah.
He didn't. He just left. Like, well, we all have to work to try to. He could have made such a difference, and he chose not to do it. And that's where I got down on him. You can be Republican, you can be Democrat. I got down on him for that. I just went, he's avoiding the issues
Right.
that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
And he kicked it down the road. And I just find that to be, especially for being the first African American president or black president, call him what you want in that regard. But the fact of the matter is, he had an audience that listened to him. He had
Yeah,
good
sure.
ratings. Take the mic and say, knock it off, everybody.
Right.
You guys that are killing each other in Chicago, knock it off. And here's how you're going to do it. But he never did. He just sat back and acted like, oh, well, it's everybody's problem. We've all got to work together to fix it. That's fine, but that doesn't solve the problem.
Right.
So I'm sorry, but I get sidetracked because these things, I'm not saying they're easy to solve, but they are easy to address.
Yeah.
And you can make the resolution step by step.
Yeah, and sometimes just bringing it to people's attention puts pressure on
That's
change.
exactly right. But to just duck it, just to say, I know it's out there, but that's
Right.
not addressing it.
One of the things this college basketball fiasco, these are high school players that they were paying money to as well.
I know. So eventually it's going to get to that.
Yeah.
You got to pay the high school players.
Then you're going to go to junior high.
Sure.
Well,
heck yeah. It's the next logical step.
Right.
And
some of the numbers that they were talking about, $150,000 to these kids' families and
Yes.
stuff. I mean, that's some significant amount of money.
Sure it is.
One of the things that I was reading, and I don't. Apparently, there's a bunch of schools involved in this, so I don't know which.
There's a gazillion,
Right.
And it's going to. And I'm not big into prediction, but I'm going
Right.
to make a prediction. This is going to go. This is going to cross over into football.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
going to cross all over the
Right.
place. The NCAA is going to have to really pay attention
Right.
to what's happening.
And one of the things that kind of surprised me, well, it didn't surprise me really, but what I thought was interesting was that there were players who said that they were they had committed to a school, and then for some
They
reason
changed
changed
their minds. Well,
and nobody knew why.
But that's and that used to be. It used to be you accepted that, even if you didn't like it. Okay,
Right.
everybody's allowed to change their mind.
Right.
Well, not if they're being bribed.
Right.
Not
And
if they're
that's-
being
and
paid.
actually, that's
and
one
that's
of the big
what
charges
is happening.
is bribery.
Heck yeah,
Yeah.
that you
So
can
it's,
see it, and like I said, and we've got there's some major programs.
Yeah.
And and I got to believe they're the ones that didn't know how to cover it or cover it up very well because they've been exposed. But I guarantee you, this is going to be a cascade.
Yeah.
There's no way in the world only 5 or 6 programs
Right.
were involved in this.
And one of the things that people don't realize is that these are institutions that are public institutions,
Right.
And they get taxpayer
That's
money.
that's what
and
people.
that's why the FBI is involved.
That's
in
why
this.
people, and I think people don't realize that.
Right.
It's just the same thing with a Lincoln Arms and taking the knee.
Right.
Hey, are you taking money for stadiums?
Right.
You're taking taxpayer money for your
Yeah.
stadium? Then you better not be doing that.
Right.
But but nobody's it'll be tap danced and
Right.
nobody will touch it. But that's exactly right. No, your point's very well taken.
Because I was like, why would the FBI really care about
Yeah.
somebody giving money, from a cop? But then when you bring up the point that, well, this is taxpayer
Taxpayer,
money
yeah,
being given
it's not,
to
it's not money
bribing
that somebody
people.
somebody
to
didn't
go.
leave it on the doorstep.
Right. Yeah, this wasn't private citizens
Exactly. Donating. This is
Yeah.
stuff that the government
Right.
grabbed from us,
Right.
and they.
Although there are some businesses that were involved in
Oh,
this
I'm
as well.
sure there are,
So-
but that only stands to reason.
Yeah.
Where you're going to get the money from. Yeah, I'm sure
Right.
there's some, some other businesses that take it. So
Right.
that's like I said. Again, it's not to me. It's not hard to walk away from this stuff, and I'm a sports junkie, but I don't. I'm for doing it right. I'm for above board.
Right.
I'm for, that's when I used to squawk to you all the time about this the last month of the trade deadline. I used to say, well, you play with your team, and now all of a sudden you get 12 new players
Right.
on your team at the end of July, and now now you're a playoff a World Series contender, and I guess that's okay. But I mean, what's the first 2/3 of the season mean?
Yeah.
Nothing. If that's not the team you're going to be playing with, then everybody's got to be able to improve their team. I just think when it comes down to who's got the most money,
Right.
can improve their team the best, then you got a problem.
Right.
But that's me. But that is sports, and that's the way it works, and so I can deal with that. But so just the last thing I wanted to touch base on that. Do you have anything else on the NBA that I mean the NCAA that the NBA? Obviously, we can make the easy segue into Russell Westbrook getting $205 million for 5 years,
Right.
and they're not going to win the championship.
Right.
That's a big investment to make.
Yeah.
They may get to the semis,
Right.
but I don't think they're going to be any good good enough to beat the teams. I don't think they're going to beat San Antonio. I don't think they're going to beat Golden State. So we'll see what gives. But I guess they're trying to get into it. But they're trying to get into some kind of a competitive thing, and that's fine. I see Dwayne Wade's going to play with LeBron now, and who didn't see that coming? Am I the only person that thinks that he went for 1 year from Miami up to Chicago to try to make it look like he was playing the field?
Right.
I think he had every intention. I'll take a year off, take the heat off me, because he's beloved now in Miami. If he would have run right up to LeBron, I think that he would have had some people that didn't like him in Miami. But the fact that he took a year out and looked like he went after it in Chicago, even though nothing good was going to come out of that. He just delayed it 1 year.
Right.
So, and you got and how about LeBron? Did you see LeBron talking about Kyrie Irving? And they kept showing that where he called him the kid. He wanted to give him the keys to the Cadillac or something.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's to me a tad insufferable, but that's okay.
Right.
I guess I guess you have to put up with stuff like that. So, okay, enough shooting down false idols in the NFL and the NCAAs and the NBA for that matter. Let's talk about something a little more wholesome. And this is very disturbing and distressing to me. We like to make a big deal about the overs and unders in the professional tennis because there's about 50 women with the last name of OVA. I mean, and there's 2 women's tournaments this weekend. Ain't no overs. Over. So they're and even the Nevas, the NEVAs are out. You get the overs out, the Nevas out, and now all of a sudden you've got a bunch of different women competing. Which a girl named Garcia, I haven't seen a Spanish or Mexican woman really bring home the bacon for all of Mukarutz's. I guess she did it, but. They used to have such a big contingent of really good lady tennis players in Spain, Mexico. They seem to have all disappeared. Now, I'm glad to see this Caroline Garcia, if that's her name, is back and competing competently for her country, and I think that's fantastic. And that's just my touch there. And of course, before we get into the next hour, we'll talk some baseball, but I want to talk about the President's Cup, which is, and I got to be honest, it's working against me. I love to watch international golf competition.
Right.
But you got the President's Cup, the Harry's Trophy. I mean, Woosnam's. I mean, there seems to be like 50 different nationally, and so you get to watch all of, the Americans play the Spaniards or play the Europeans. What this is it's very good golf. It's fun competition, but it's going to breed. I can see now it's breeding really obnoxious fan behavior. They're playing in New York City. Guys are screaming at things. Like, I mean, and in fact, it happened yesterday. I forget somebody was ready to tee off, and the guy yelled, "Oh, $10 million man!" Talking about Justin Thomas, and Jordan Spieth said, "Come on, guys, come on." They still didn't stop. They kept yelling. They kept yelling out salaries and prize winnings and everything else.
Right.
I would love somebody to say you can come. Well, I guess they're not going to do that. They used to. You used to have a decorum when you went to watch a golf event.
Yeah.
You didn't stand there and drink beer and go, USA, USA.
Right.
But now they do that. I guess that's cool. So, Oh, well, I'm just starting to sound like a curmudgeon that I didn't want to be, but I have become. So with that, I'll sit back, finish my peach Snapple, and we'll get going in the second hour on baseball.
All right, you got 1 hour in the books now. You're listening to Red Zone Radio Sport. We're sponsored by Bill Bryant Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. They're located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. Their phone number is 352-787-2223. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. All right, well, I don't know what's going on there.
No music. No music. I guess we cracked the code on that one.
We broke the machine.
But that's okay because we're back.
That's right. For hour number 2,
and we
Red Zone Radio Sports.
Thank Bill Bryan, of course.
And Bill Bryan, right?
And
we just had a visitor here, Terry Frasner from the Chamber of Commerce. She was helping out Martha Ann, who does a show here, I think on Fridays. Everybody's favorite coupon book, I believe.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So they do a show here, and I guess she was dropping off some coupon books for.
Can't beat that.
And I've known Terry for a long time. She's a great lady.
Coupon. I'm very pro coupon. Anything that can save me money, I couldn't be happier.
All right.
I could not be happier. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll take. We got in this first of the second hour, our first segment. Let's talk a little. Let's talk about a little bit about the American League. But first, I want to say, as we get into my rants, and I'll save some of the rants for the end. But did you watch the Michigan State Notre Dame football game?
No, I did not.
Okay, I did. It was 4 hours long because they replayed anything and everything that was marginally close. And I found it to be totally, it just absolutely ruined the game for me because why even have officials? If you're going to do this where it's 3rd down and 2 and the guy runs and he gets close and they spot the ball and it's 6 inches short, now they have to stop the game. And they have to go and they have to get in New York. And what's amazing, the same thing is happening in football that happens in baseball. Then the guys who are watching the game say, well, I don't think he made it. Right. I think this is going to be overturned. I think that, and then it's not.
Right.
It's not overturned. So, but the point is, watching it doesn't make a bit of difference. If you show the same running play, did he break the end zone? 5 will say yes, 5 will say no. Now where are you? You're no better off than you were before. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's too close to call. In baseball, and I'll get off this, but I had to say this, because the close plays at second base, all these plays now that are getting replayed and replayed and replayed, I'm all for saying what he should be. If you are, the ball beats you to the base and you're praying the guy misses the tag, you're out.
Yeah.
That's how I would look at it.
Right.
Just go. You shouldn't have run.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'd say 10% of the time it's bang bang and you got to look at it.
Yeah.
But not 100% of the time.
Right.
And I really, if the ball beat you there and you have to take 8,000 slow-mos to see if the guy nipped his shirt with a tag. I know. He did. I could see it from my TV.
Right.
You're out. But that's one way to save time on it. But this game, it was just a nightmare because it just went on and on and on. And and it didn't hurt that a couple guys got injured, but more in launch, it was just everything. 3rd and 4, and a guy catches a 3-yard pass. Okay, everybody gather around the TV screen and see if we can figure that out. So, shut up on that, but that was just my take. I had to get that rant just had to come out of me. Okay, back to baseball, and let's talk about the American League. As I see, you've got everybody's in place
except one.
Well.
Colorado.
Well, no, I'm talking about the American League.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Everybody.
No, you're definitely right about that.
Yeah.
American League, but we don't know if Boston or New York's going to be the wild card.
Yeah, but
I would bet. In a perfect world for the Yankees, they win their last 2, Boston loses, and then they have a playoff to say that. So
that would be fun, but I don't.
That
think
would be
gonna
fun,
happen.
but I'd like to see who's going to pitch that game.
Yeah.
Because they're all saving guys. But that's coming down to the wires. Boston's leaking a little bit of oil because, and I don't think it's anything for them to worry about, but some of their ace pitchers did some bad stuff back to back, and they haven't had big games for a while. So now they're panicking because all of a sudden Sale got lit up a little bit and Pomerantz got lit up a little bit. And now the Yankees with Tanaka throwing 7 innings, no walks, 15 strikeouts and 3 hits. That's pretty good pitching.
Yeah.
So they think that they've got them solved, and Judge seems to have got himself straightened out.
Yeah.
Well, that being said, let's talk about the Indians. The Indians, to me, look devastatingly good.
Right.
Devastatingly good. Like
101 wins.
And I think they're better than that. I think that they have one Achilles heel, and I can't call it a big Achilles heel, but compared to the rest of the sections of that team, they are not a great team with relief pitchers. They got nobody that can come in and slam doors.
Right.
And I don't want to hear about Andrew Miller. I mean, they bring in that Shaw and they bring in the other, and Allen. They're okay, but they're not shutdown guys. And but they seem to get so far ahead of everybody. What difference does it make?
Right.
I mean, they do seem to be the genuine, real deal. Now they've got and Jay Bruce is, every third game he'll hit 2 home runs and drive in 5 runs, and then he'll strike out the other 2 games. But he's contributing, and that's a perfect puzzle piece for them is Jay Bruce, because Jay Bruce will give them a little more power in the lineup. He's defensively a fairly solid player when they play him, and they can put up with his whiffs and his leaving guys on base for the times he cracks it. So. And he's almost a spitting image of Encarnacion, Edwin. And so they got Edwin and Bruce in the same lineup. So you're going to have a lot of guys. If they're hot, they're going to win games by themselves. And if they tank, the rest of the team is good enough to carry them through some of the other low-scoring games.
Right.
So that's my take on that. And as I watch Houston play, if Houston's going to rely on, and I have nothing, Charlie Morton's 14-7 with a 3.60 ERA. Not bad at all. But I watched him pitch in Pittsburgh for 6-7 years, and not that long, probably 5. But Charlie is very frail. Charlie emotionally is frazzled. You hit a line drive off Charlie, he starts trying to paint corners, and he doesn't like it when you hit the ball hard off him.
Right.
And he was sailing along last night, and all of a sudden somebody got a hit, and he just went south. The guy started hitting the ball like rockets all over the place. And but I don't even know if he'll be one of their 4 guys. They're going to have Keuchel. I'm blanking on the other name of one of their other pitchers. It's very good, but pretty good stuff. So I'm really intrigued as to what you think. You got the Yankees, Boston, Cleveland, and I hate to eliminate Minnesota. This is how you fire up a minute. Not that I'm going to fire them up, but I don't see Minnesota being in the same caliber as the other 4 teams.
I agree.
They may sneak in. They may get lucky and hit a home run, whoever they play in the DH game. But they, on a 7-game series, they're top to bottom. They're not as competent as the other 4 teams.
Right.
That's how I look at it. And don't get me wrong, I think hats off to them for making it. I was the first person out of the box to say there's no way they're going to stay in. No way they're going to stay in. No, but then they took Sano out, and I'm not a big. He got hurt, I think. He's out of the lineup, and they started winning miraculously. So with my luck, I'll end up with the Pirates. But so now that he's gone from the lineup, maybe they could use his bat. But the fact of the matter is, they just aren't as good a team as Cleveland, Houston, Boston, and New York.
Yeah. Well, if you're just looking at straight records, I guess you got to lean towards Cleveland and Houston.
Straight records are nice, but as you know, it's an unbalanced schedule, and the fact that some guys play lousy teams more than others. Houston's playing Oakland and Texas.
Right. But when they came in,
Cleveland's playing Detroit and Chicago.
Houston came in and manhandled Boston. So,
yes.
I was actually surprised.
They can do it. There's no question about it. And they're still doing it now.
Yeah.
And truthfully, though, they don't need. I think Houston will pitch one of their good pitchers. Oh, they're pitching McCullers. McCullers is okay, but he's not great shakes. So he's pitching against the Red Sox today. Probably a good chance the Red Sox will beat McCullers because they're pitching Pomerantz. But like I said, I'm really excited about the American League playoff picture because I think they've got 4 really good teams.
Yeah.
Yankees might be seeded 4th if I had to seed the teams.
Yeah,
But
I'd agree with
if
that.
their guys get hot, and I guess that sounds like that's, well, sure, if any team gets,
Sure.
but they've got big bats that can carry a team.
Yeah.
If Judge and Sanchez and
The-
Hicks, I mean, they've got some guys, and Gardner. I mean, they got some guys, and their shortstop Gregorius. They're set. Are they as good as Boston? Yeah, maybe not, but not by that much. Anything can happen there. I definitely think that Houston and Cleveland are the 2 teams to
Yeah,
beat.
I
In
would
fact, if
agree
I had to
with
pick, I'd pick Cleveland. How do you feel? What's your take on the American League?
I would go with Cleveland as well. They just seem to have working on all cylinders. At
I
the
see
moment.
like I said, the only weakness, if it's a weakness,
Right,
I see is their relief pitching, and it's not bad.
right.
It's just not like Red Sox got Kimbrel, who's pretty much a shutdown relief pitcher. I give him credit. There's very few good ones, but he looks like one of the good ones.
Right.
And maybe Chapman is finding himself again with New York. We'll see. But, boy, he had a bad stretch there where he just wasn't getting it done. So you kind of lose your
Well, even Betances came in the other night.
walked a guy and hit a guy.
And he yanked him right
Well,
after
good,
that.
yeah.
So-
Well, like I said, they come in and they're all
earlier in the season, he was another guy who was just like lights out.
well.
And then he just fell apart.
His
Really
control has always been on the edge.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he has a great curveball,
Yeah.
but if he's not throwing it for strikes, it's a frustrating time.
Right.
But what I guess I'm in wrapping this up in terms of the American League is, it's going to really be a great.
It should be.
It
Yeah.
should be. You're going to have. There's nobody's, like I said. I don't think Minnesota may make it. Hey, they may make it to the World Series. I just don't think that they're. I think they're decidedly inferior to the other 4 teams in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That being said, go Minnesota. They may prove me wrong and go all the way. So,
Well, they would be, and I'm going to predict that the Yankees are going to finish in the wild card, not get that division.
That's
but,
going to that's I think that's going to probably,
Right.
the motivation for Houston it's not there. I
Right.
mean, obviously they want to win their games,
right.
but they're going to manage like,
yeah,
okay, you're pitching 5 innings and you're coming in, you're coming in, you're coming.
right.
They don't care, if the outcome's no good. They want to get their players
Right.
healthy and
But what I
Loose.
wanted to say with Minnesota is the Yankees have owned Minnesota this year. I mean, they just
I
bludgeoned
think
them.
the good teams do.
Yeah.
Minnesota seems to, when they're playing, I shouldn't say, but even when they're playing Kansas City, Detroit, and Chicago, they beat the heck out of them. They really did.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't see. Let me see if it has if it's a home versus away thing. No, and what's amazing is Minnesota's 40-39 at home.
Right.
They can't even win at home.
Right.
But they're I think they beat up on, look, Chicago's 27-52. Detroit's 34-47 at home. That's not any good.
Right.
So you got problems. But like I said, not that my predictions matter, but I think you're going to love the series. I think whether it's the Yankees, Boston, or Minnesota.
Now the wild card games are on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be fun.
It's going to be great. I'm really, really excited about it. And like I said, before we get to the National League in the next segment, a couple things to talk about. And I don't even know if I've given you a chance to think about these, but 3 things. MVPs in the American League. Who do you like?
The American League. That's a tough one because I'm a kind of guy who believes now Aaron Judge they keep talking about him as the MVP.
He's a definite candidate.
Right. And what I've seen on the talking head shows is that it's going to become between Altuve and Judge. But I look at the Rookie of the Year as that should be in place of the MVP for a rookie. I mean, I don't know if you should really be eligible as a MVP.
Oh no, we're gonna have one of these discussions.
know.
If you win, if somebody wins the Cy Young,
Right.
they shouldn't be
I
able to
know
win the
it.
MVP.
I
Now,
kinda- well,
well, that's okay. But you so far, you haven't told me. So who's going to win the MVP?
well, here comes the problem is because I really would like Aaron Judge to win it.
Why? Because you're a New Yorker.
Yeah, I'm a Yankee fan.
Now,
and
how
he's
about-
tremendous?
But
But
putting hearts aside, what do you think?
well, I mean, there's a case for Altuve, but I think Aaron Judge. I mean, maybe he'll win Rookie of the Year and the MVP. So I don't think you can really do a lot of arguing with that.
We still don't know who you picked. Judge.
Aaron Judge,
Okay,
yeah.
good. Okay. If it makes you feel better or worse, I'm picking Altuve.
Okay.
And
Well,
it should
and
probably
if that happens,
yeah,
that's fine with
that's-
me.
I'm
Because
sure you don't think-
I almost
nobody's-
think it's a coin cost.
nobody's getting
coin
ripped
toss.
off there, so that's fine.
Right.
But the music starts, so we're not going to. We still have a couple little things to pick up on the AL, and then we'll go to the NL. But
Right.
I listen to the music when the music gets loud and ominous like that. I know it's time to be quiet and
All
get
right.
ready for words from our sponsor.
That's what it took to get you quiet with some music. I'm going to have to keep that in mind. All right, you are listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410. We're sponsored by Bill Bryant, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. They're located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. Their number is 352-787-2223. We will be right back after these messages. We are back with the Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. I am Greg Malinzuk, Bob Wiltman on the other side of the glass.
On the other side of the glass with my face pressed up against it. And we were just
Sight
talking.
to behold.
Well, that's putting it mildly. Now we're wrapping up the American League, and we were talking about MVP potential. And Greg likes Judge. I like Altuve. And before we move on to the National League, we were talking about Cy Youngs.
Yeah.
How about Cy Youngs? I think there's only
There's only two.
there's only two, and Craig Kimbrell, you could make a mini argument for him because he's been that good of a shutdown closer, but I don't think closers are MVPs,
No.
and it's not like nobody has. He's been on a decent team, but he hasn't. His teammate.
Do you know how many saves he has? 'Cause it's not a spectacular amount.
No, it's more it's like 39 out of 40
Right.
or 40 out of 41, something like that.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean he's just he's striking out 100 people
Right.
in 66 innings. He's got a 1.28 ERA or
Right.
something. But again, I'm arguing against myself because I'm not a relief pitcher gets the
Me
MVP
either.
award. To me, I figure if you put somebody in there, they're probably going to do the job 90% of the time anyhow.
Right.
Anyhow.
Right.
So that's how I look at it. So he saves you 5 games a year. Not good enough to get the MVP,
Right.
in my humble opinion.
I agree.
That being said, Cy Youngs, you got Kluber, you got Sale.
Yeah.
Uh,
Boy, that's a tough one.
It is a tough one, but I don't think it's so tough I can't go with Kluber. I think Sale's a big, dominant lefty who strikes out people,
Right.
but he also he gets lit up a little bit on occasion. I don't see that happen too often to Kluber.
Right.
Kluber, I think, has an ERA that's over a half a run per inning less than Sale. Sale's got like a 2.88, and Kluber's like a 2.38, I think, or something like that. I don't know if you have that information in front of you.
No, I don't.
But I don't either. But I just checked it, and I am big when you're doing Cy Youngs. I'm big on ERA, even though I know there's problems to be had there too. But if you're 22-6, and I think it happened last year in the American League with Rick Porcello. Rick Porcello was 22-4, but he had a 3.60 ERA or something. And there was somebody that won 18 games. Maybe it was Kluber. and Kluber had an ERA that was like 1 run less,
Right.
and they still gave it to Porcello. And I thought, yeah, wins are important. Don't get me wrong, but you can win a game and not have your good stuff.
Yeah.
To me, the Cy Young's for the person who's the best pitcher in the league, and I think that Kluber is hands down. Maybe I'm wrong. Sale may win but it's just how he does it. He strikes out 315, 320 people in 240 innings, and he is, but Kluber's ERA, he's got as many wins, if not one more, and he's got an ERA that's more than a half a run less. I have to go with I think that's what shows. Strikeouts are like home runs. I mean, they're nice, but
Yeah, and I think in this era of guys striking out 200 times a year,
it's just that's
not as big
new
of a
new philosophy on playing baseball. Small ball, a thing of the past.
Right.
Ask the Orioles. They got like 4 guys with 40 home runs. They're all hitting under 250.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Right.
At least sure it didn't work for him this year. But that being said, so I think that's a fairly good blanket coverage of the American League. I can't think of anything else that needs to be said. I think Judge, if you want to talk about Rookie of the Year, I think he's got that. He's got that so far wrapped up. It's ridiculous. I mean, there's a couple other guys having good years, but I think 52 or 53 homers with a 290 batting average and 115 RBI or whatever. That to me, that pretty much cements it. I can't think anybody else that would probably be more deserving.
Yeah.
So that's the name of that tune. So we go to the National League, and let's talk first of all. You're right. We know you got Washington, you got the Cubbies, you got the Dodgers, you got Arizona, and Colorado's trying to hold off Milwaukee. Again, Milwaukee's just not. Even if they somehow get in, they're just not as good. They're not as good as the other teams. They're not as good as Washington, the Cubs, Arizona, or the Dodgers. So that doesn't mean they can't advance, but they just aren't. On paper, they're just not as good. I'm looking at the Rockies and going, I don't know. But I think they're going to make the playoffs. But I don't know if they can beat Arizona. Arizona decides. You can see what Arizona did. They pitched 4 innings of Greinke yesterday, and I think Greinke's getting ready for the playoff.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's going to be your guy pitching the game to get you into the series, which makes all the sense in the world. And he's had a heck of a year himself. And another year with a couple of the other guys who were pitching as well. Greinke would have a legitimate argument, I think, if he, if there were a couple other guys weren't pitching, because he's had a heck of a year. I'm trying to find his stats. He's 320 ERA, which is a little high for him. But he's 17-7. He's a pretty good pitcher, and I never thought so when he came up. I thought he was going to be a flash in the pan, and he certainly proved me wrong. But that being said, let's talk a little bit about the heavy hitters in town, and they've got a lot of them. Again, baseball is going to be thrilling, not because nobody's linking arms, because they probably will, but the fact of the matter is, Washington, Chicago, L.A., and Arizona, to me, are really, really all very, very good baseball teams. I'd like to think L.A. will prevail. I root against Puig. I think he's a goof. By the way, did you notice that he got benched for a couple games because he didn't show up for a team meeting? What else do you have to do when you're 23 years old making $10 million a year? What else do you have to do besides show up for your team meeting?
There's dancing at clubs at 3 a.m.
Yeah, I guess. Okay.
A little salsa music.
I guess that answers my question. I asked the question twice. I got the answer. But so as I look at all the teams, if Murphy and Harper are healthy, I still don't think they're as good as the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers with Kershaw, Dodgers to me just have a real tough team to beat.
Yeah.
They're really good.
Yeah.
Puig or no Puig.
I think the combination there of managers. You have Don Mattingly, who is no longer the manager of Los Angeles, so that will be good for Los Angeles. And you have Dusty Baker, who is the manager of Washington,
Nationals, yeah.
who I believe has messed up playoffs and World Series more than any other manager who's been in the postseason.
When he comes out to take out the pitcher, I guarantee you there will be a toothpick in his mouth.
I
He's
just,
the toothpick guy.
to me, he just makes some head scratchers. I don't know what it is. It's either takes out the pitcher a couple of batters too soon, or leaves him in a couple of batters too long. Just
Well, that's
I
no.
don't
That's
think
I agree with your analysis on him. One of the things, and I wanted to talk about this, and not because of the defending champs, but I don't think Chicago stacks up with either of the other three teams.
no.
I don't know. They just Leicester going in the tank obviously didn't help them, but
Right.
like I said, everybody on their team is having a down year from last year.
Yeah.
Everybody.
And their pitching, I mean, they can throw good games, but all of their pitchers are eminently hittable.
Yes, even Arrieta,
Yeah.
who went through a period there, he elevates the ball sometimes and gets shellacked.
Yeah.
And the guy Kendrick, is that his name? Pretty good, but not nearly as good as he
Right.
was last year.
Yep.
And Lester certainly not.
Right.
And the Quintana they got, he's a good serviceable lefty starting pitcher, but he's not going to set the world on fire.
Yeah.
If he's he's basically going to take Lester's place in the rotation, I think.
Right.
So we'll find out. I think it'll be Lackey, Arrieta, Kendrick, and Quintana.
Yeah.
My guess.
Hey,
So
just an aside, supposedly or apparently, whatever the right word is, they're making a movie, or they're planning on making a movie of the Chicago Cubs season of last year. And do you know who's going to play the manager, Joe Madden?
Nicholson. No, let me see. Jeff Bridges. I have no idea.
Now that I've said it, I can't remember. No, I can't remember his name.
What was he in?
Caddyshack.
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray.
All right. See, that to me that tells me that you don't have confidence in your material, and that's typical Hollywood. Let's put a lovable guy that everybody likes, whether he's good or not.
Right.
Let's put him in there because he's from Chicago.
Yeah, he's a big Chicago.
Yeah, he's
Cub
a huge
fan.
Cub fan.
Yeah.
So, and I have nothing against Bill Murray. I actually think he's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But
I just think the idea of a movie of the Chicago Cubs season last year is really not that compelling. I don't know what they could do.
Yeah, I guess they think that the nation they just swept the nation up.
Right.
No, I don't. They didn't sweep the nation
No.
up. They won the national championship because they
Right.
were supposed to.
Right. They had a
But
great season, but I don't see anything intriguing about it, funny.
Well-
It's something that I would want to watch a movie about.
well, that's why. So they said anybody will go see a movie Bill
Yeah.
Murray's in.
Yeah.
That's why they're doing it.
Right.
I guarantee if they cast you or me as Joe Madden, in fact, I'm starting to look a little bit like Joe Madden, but the fact is that nobody would go
Right.
if I stood there and said snarky things on the sideline.
Well, if they cast me, it would be a blockbuster. But I just.
Oh, it might be. It might be something you'd want to throw some dynamite at. I'll leave it at that. But like I said, as we talk about the Arizona Diamondbacks are solid. LA solid. I would say Chicago's going to be the 4th seed. That doesn't mean they won't win the repeat.
Right.
I just don't see it happening.
I don't see it happening.
And I don't see.
Now, I'll tell you this.
I don't see Washington winning.
If Chicago Cubs somehow, won the National League Championship, that would be worthy of making a movie about because I don't see it at all.
No.
I see them.
I agree with
I
you.
see them being
That would be if they repeated. I'd go see the movie because I don't know how they did it.
right. Yeah. But having said that, any of those other teams, other than Colorado, if they make it, which it looks like they will, I don't really see them going very far. I don't see them beating Arizona. But other than I don't see the Cubs. I actually think the Cubs would lose to Arizona.
Well, that's my point. I think I'm going to go one step further. I think Arizona is the 2nd seed. I think it's L.A., Arizona, and then Washington. I think Washington's okay, but like I said, they play in a very weak division.
Right.
And they've got Harper and Murphy, but
Right.
But they got Worth bets 230. I mean, they got some gaps in that lineup, and I just struggle. I'm looking at their lineup now. They played against Pittsburgh last night. Turner betting 285. No, well but yeah, Worth 228, Wieters 225, Taylor 270. They got like a third of the lineup is not very good in my humble opinion.
Now, I think
Murphy's good, Rondon's good.
Yeah, well, I wanted
Zimmerman.
to bring up Murphy because they played the New York Mets. I think 18 times they play him.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the record was, but it was probably something like 16-2.
Uh-huh.
And Murphy batted like 500. I mean, he just absolutely destroyed the New York Mets.
But no offense, but then the Mets pitching staff got hit pretty hard outside of DeGrom.
But my point, I'm trying to bolster your point of that. Boy, they really fed on some bottom.
Well, that's what happens.
Yeah.
But and you're right. So that's. But I'll tell you what. So that's our predictions for. I think L.A. I'm thinking L.A. Cleveland. That's me for the series.
Okay.
Maybe wrong. Next week I'll change it.
Right.
If LA or Cleveland are out by next week, I'll change.
I can't argue with that.
No.
I mean, that's those are two solid picks.
Good. Now, quickly, a National League, not because we're running out of time, because I want to touch base on them. MVPs.
Boy, you got to make the case for Giancarlo Stanton.
I would, but I'm not going to.
Okay. Well,
to me, the only case, and there's a couple guys, obviously,
right,
but the case to me, Nolan Arenado, hands down, is the best candidate for the MVP. He's got 35 homers, 115 RBIs, batting .307. He's going to win the Gold Glove, and without him, Colorado would be a 500 baseball team.
right.
But that's just my read on it. He may not win. You're right. It may be Giancarlo Stanton.
If you ask me, no. I just
think it's Stanton.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. Stanton's had a remarkable season. His team has left him down. They're not doing that much. By the way, his team did come back with 4 runs in the 7th to win last night against Atlanta, but Stanton. He was 2 for 4 with an RBI, but no homers. So he's got a couple games left to try to get to 60 or 61. So we'll see if he pulls it off. That's a good pick, though. Stanton might be the darling of the fans. So we'll see where that gets us. Cy Youngs for the National League.
Uh-oh.
It's cliffhanger time.
That's right.
So we're not going to have to do the Rookie of the Year, and we're not going to have to do well, we will, but we'll do them after this break.
All right.
And then we got lots more rants to finish it out.
All right.
Bring it on.
You are listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. We are sponsored by Bill Bryant Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Rams. They're located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. Their phone number is 352-787-2223. We'll be right back after these messages. And we are back with Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County. I'm Greg Malinzuk, and Bob Wiltman
is sitting back wondering how you can possibly think Giancarlo Stanton is going to be out Nolan Arenado, but everybody's entitled to their wrong opinion.
Well, where do you see that?
I see that. I was just checking the stats.
Yeah,
they both have 130 RBI.
Right.
Arenado's got 37 homers.
Right.
And Arenado's hitting 26 points higher.
All right.
And they're in the playoffs, maybe. See, I haven't sold you?
No.
I know you're
a tough one.
You're an aficionado of the long ball. As he was pulling for Judge, he's pulling for Stanton.
Well, I'm not
That's
really
okay.
pulling for Stanton.
And but in this day of long ball fever, why not? I mean, that's what people are going for. So, hey, it's very simple. It could easily be Stanton.
I mean, I don't.
Is Stanton a Gold Glover, by the way? Arenado gets the hands down Gold Glover at third base. But I don't know that. But Stanton may be a great defensive player.
What is his batting average, Stanton? I don't.
281.
Right. See,
not bad.
That's respectable.
That's very respectable. But it ain't 307.
No, but it's not.
Arenado's 37 homer, 130 RBI, and Stanton's 58 homers and 130 RBI.
Yeah.
So you might say he's had 21 more homers. I could say Arenado's team made the playoffs, and Arenado at 26 points higher, plus Arenado got a Gold Glove at third. So what? Right. So, but that's where that goes. And while we're talking, and that was our take on the MVP, let's talk about the Cy Young.
Yeah, I don't really think it's a race in the National League.
Scherzer always seems to get in there. Scherzer's sneaking. He's sneaking around now with the second best ERA in the league, and he's like 2 wins behind Kershaw. Yeah. And he's pitching again today.
Right.
If Kershaw gets shelled today, there'll be Scherzer talk.
I guess.
No, but I think Kershaw has been dominant, hands down, the best. So we agree there. And about the Rookie of the Year,
like Cody Bellinger.
Who doesn't like Cody Bellinger? Josh Bell from the Pirates is hitting like 253, but he's got 28 homers and 90 RBI, but he ain't Cody Bellinger. Nope. So Pirates are going to be happy to have somebody in the top 3 in any of the voting. So that's where they go. So that being said, that's our wrap up. And also, might I say, everybody's excited about the National League playoffs as I am. I think that the teams that I want to see playing that are the best, the teams that are the best by far, are in it.
Right.
And that's all I can ask. Yep. So let them play, and I get to see the good pitchers. It's a lot of them have 3, 4 decent starters. Ralph is in the house. Good to see him. They have great starting pitchers, so we will take that for what it's worth. And you know what it means as we get down to the... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, before we go on to the rants, I do want to say that the NHL season opens on Wednesday, October, and your Pittsburgh Penguins will host the St. Louis Blues.
Who do they belong to?
Who's St. Louis Blues? I don't know. I don't know. But they will be raising their 5th Stanley Cup championship banner on that day.
Yes,
and so you should be excited about that.
That's exciting, and then usually the team falls flat when that happens. But tell you what,
that's a back-to-back.
Penguins lost. Well, they wanted 3-peat, but they lost a couple, albeit old guys that there's something to be said for experience and knowing how to win.
And I just I just want to say that people who are upset with the NFL should tune in to the NHL. Yeah. Especially Florida. This year's All-Star Game is going to be in Tampa.
Right.
So that's kind of cool. And this will be the first season of the Vegas Golden Knights.
That's right.
They open up on Friday the 6th against Arizona.
Is it at home?
Yep.
And Arizona, great. So no matter where they played, it's going to be 105 degrees outside. Right. That's great. So they'll be slushing around.
They're the 31st NHL franchise.
Wow.
So they're.
I tell you what,
I love hockey.
Me too. I love it. And real quick, because we have a rant issue to go to. Sure. But let's talk about the decision that's been made by NBC.
Right.
I don't know if the people know that, but NBC is not going to cover the NHL while the am I right?
Olympics.
While the Olympics are on, and I'm not sure what why they're doing that.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But I guess that's
they're upset.
They're locking. That's their taking a knee on the.
They're upset that the NHL players
aren't going to be playing in the Olympic game, and you know what? And that's for a whole nother show. But to me, am I the only one that can say it? It's the Olympics. It's amateur Olympics. It's not people making $25,000 a year, $25 million a year. amateurs.
Right.
Greg presented during the basketball. Our basketball team in the Olympics should be the NCAA champion,
Yeah.
or a meshing of the two teams, the NCAA
Right.
champion and the team they played.
Right.
That would be fair to
Yeah.
me,
And that would
But
be
this-
fun. I think that would.
That would be more fun than
Right.
watching
Yep.
our dream team beating Afghanistan
Yeah.
129 to 42. I would just enjoy it
Right.
more. But that's me.
Me too.
Sidetrack there. That's not a rant. That's an opinion. But a rant that I have now,
All right.
I'm obviously choosing to go first. Sorry about that. It's not a big deal, but it bothers me. So tonight I'm looking, and today's game, Arizona's playing Kansas City, or they're hosting Kansas City. Really? It's September 30th. We're still playing interleague games that matter with games, and what?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought they were for fun. Why in the world, if Arizona was trying to make, or Kansas City was trying to make the playoffs, why would they be playing a team from another league
I don't
where
know.
you have different rules, where you have to? It doesn't make any sense. What's the thinking behind it? Maybe you can help me, because I can't for the life of me figure that
I
one out.
have no idea. I totally agree with you.
Good.
I just have no idea. I'm not a big fan of interleague play to begin with, but if you're going to do it, I don't know, pick
Under
2
the guise
months
of, wouldn't it be fun to have some regional?
Right,
Pittsburgh plays not well, they usually play Philadelphia. Pittsburgh plays Cleveland.
right.
Okay, I guess that's fun, but or Pittsburgh's going to play. I'm trying to think of another team, Detroit.
Right.
Okay, they're within Toronto. They're all within 4 or 5 hours. That's fun. Get in the car,
Right.
drive, watch them play in Toronto. But that makes sense. But let's Kansas City. Let's fly out to Arizona and play. I'm sorry, it's Arizona at Kansas City. So Arizona fly
Yeah.
to Kansas City. Why?
Yeah.
What? Now Arizona will have to put a DH up, and they won't have to let their pitchers bat. Yet, when the pitchers get into the National League, they're going to have to.
Right.
I just don't understand the thinking. It's one of those questions like, why did you take Joe out in the 5th inning when he had a 2-hitter? I'd like to see somebody ask somebody these questions, but
Yeah.
nobody's going to.
Yeah.
And
A lot of people are scratching their heads over that.
I know, but they're not asking. You're right. They can't figure it out
Right.
as doing that. But nobody's even saying, who thinks this is
Yeah.
a great idea?
You know, sometimes though, and this happens, the stadiums during the season are, they might have a rock concert or something, and
Well, yeah.
that screws up stuff.
But
I don't. It's like this is what happened actually when during the hurricane, Tampa was supposed to play the Yankees, but they couldn't play it in Tampa, so they went
Right.
to New York.
yeah,
But Yankee Stadium was leased out for a concert,
For a
so
concert.
they wound up playing at Citi Field, where the Mets play.
that's fine.
So sometimes that scheduling stuff
But
just
but that
makes
to me,
it quirky. But
to me,
I agree.
To me, it's all got to be when you're scheduling for your facility.
right.
You schedule for your facility.
Right.
And when you take into account, okay, and part of my scheduling my facility is in the month of September, we're not going to play any American League teams if I'm
Right.
in the National.
Yeah.
Now I'm okay with it. But
No, I
I'm not
agree.
okay with it. But okay, as long as all I wanted to hear was the famous I agree.
I agree. I was just trying to make some sort of rationale, and you know what? I'm probably wrong about that, but I just tried to make some logical
No, I
rationale
know.
of why it happens. But truthfully, I can't defend it. It's ridiculous.
Okay, well, that was my first big rant to go. And we have one that we talked about earlier. Do you have a rant in particular that you'd like to share?
I don't really have a rant, but it's they're naming the World Series MVP
Oh.
after Willie Mays,
That's right.
and I admire and I like Willie Mays.
Great ball player.
Yes, absolutely. I don't have anything bad to say about Willie Mays. Gentleman, great ball player. When I was a kid, he played on the Mets for a year, which
Yep. Say hey, kid.
yeah,
Probably 1 year longer than he should have stayed.
you're
Yep.
right. But he is not known for his. He did have that spectacular catch in the World Series,
Which I've seen, by the way.
times.
I've seen it copied like 40 times since
Right.
then,
Yeah.
but it wasn't in the World Series.
Right.
But that being said, that was like the second out of the game or
Yeah.
something. I don't think his numbers justify being Mr.
Well,
World Series.
I have him here.
Okay.
These are his World Series numbers. He's played in 20 games.
Okay.
He had 71 at-bats,
Yeah.
no home runs,
All right.
6 RBIs,
Yeah.
239 batting average.
And he deserves a statue for that or an award or whatever.
Right.
No, to me, he doesn't. He should. You want to give him? We talked to you.
Yeah.
Get the rookie there. Give some
Right.
other award.
He was Rookie of the Year.
Call it the Willie Mays
Rookie-
Golden Glove Award or
well,
something. That
he-
would I can
He
say.
was the Rookie of the Year in 1951.
Then call that
Yeah.
trophy after
Yes.
him, but not the World
Because
Series.
if you're going to name it after a player, Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
And now
Somebody.
I'll just compare and contrast here.
Yeah.
He did play 27 more games. I mean, he played 7 more games. So he
Okay.
had
So
27
he's 27
games.
seven more
So
games.
it's not really that difference of
Yeah.
98 at-bats,
Okay.
10 home runs,
Yeah.
24 RBIs,
Yeah.
357 batting average, and a 457 on-base percentage. And he also won the MVP 2 times.
So what you're saying is then he played 7 games more than Willie, but he
Right.
had 10 more home runs,
Right.
22 more
Well,
RBI,
18 more RBIs.
18 more RBIs,
Right.
10 more home runs, and a batting average over 100 points higher.
Right.
I don't think that there's anything that you can defend. I mean, those numbers scream Mr.
Right.
World Series.
Right. And plus he won the MVP twice in the World Series.
Well,
So,
I
yeah,
can't.
just-
I don't get it. So,
don't-
but there's a lot of things I don't get in baseball.
Right.
So that being said, and as we get down into our last couple minutes,
Okay.
this is always a fun one to talk about because we both see it differently. We're going to talk about the American versus National League Baseball.
Right.
Because I'm not here to argue with you because you have your reason. I think what you told
Well,
me,
that's
and this
boring.
was off mic, is you're not sure that you're thrilled for the American League way of doing it, but you have no problem with it being different than the National League.
I don't.
And I think, well, you should, because they're going to play each other.
Right.
Well, so one year we have to do it your way, and then the other, why don't we just all play baseball the way we're supposed to play it?
I enjoy the quirkiness of it.
What's quirky?
That one league has the
The quirkiness is that the managers don't have to do anything.
well,
in the
I mean
regular league.
that's another argument, but
Yeah.
also but here you go. Like people say, oh well, it's such an advantage. Well, the Cubs won last year. The National League wins World Series.
It's not an advantage.
No, it's not. It's not an advantage
It's
one
not
way or
the-
the
it's
other.
not, but it's not the same game.
Well, but then do you want those cookie cutter stadiums because it's not the same game?
No, but I want
when
the
you look at
I
when
want
you,
the rules to be the same.
well, I mean the rules could be saying that
can-
you
I don't care
have to
what
have
you
cookie cutter stadiums.
I don't care
because
what you
the
play in.
Yankees have built the team around the fact that you got a short porch in right field.
That's fine
Why is that fine?
because that's their home team.
Right.
Now, if they can't win in it, who cares?
Well, if you can't win with or without a designated hitter,
but if the team you're playing against has never had one,
Right.
or now you have to strategically manage a game that you haven't had to manage, it seems a little strange to me.
Right.
Now, no, is it the end of the world? Heck no. Heck no.
I like it.
Well, obviously. So, but
I do like the quirkiness of it. I think it makes it more different than.
than the other league.
Yeah. Well, no, it makes it much more different than the NHL or the NBA or the NFL. That you have this like quirky little
you
thing.
you think it's cool that?
Yeah,
okay,
I do.
All
Because I don't really think it makes that much that it's so dramatically different from one league to another.
Sure it is.
Okay, I disagree with that because again,
If you're big, you have to make
American League teams win when their pitchers have to hit in national
but
league
it's not
stadiums.
it's not a statistically driven. I'll tell you what. Before as I go to, I'm going to put some guns, the bullets in my chamber.
Okay.
No, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much for spending 2 hours with us, and you can listen next week to the guy who's always right. That's me. The other guy's always wrong. That's Greg. It's however you want to do it.
I didn't get my finger on the mute button fast enough. But you're probably right. I agree with you.
I'm not right. That's all you have to do to placate me. Tell everybody else he doesn't know what he's talking about. When you're here, just, I agree with you, Bob. That's fine. Hey, thanks, Greg. That's all I care about.
Thank you.
See you, folks.
Thank you, folks. We appreciate you listening to Red Zone Radio Sports here on WQBQ 1410, the voice of Lake County, sponsored by Bill Bryant Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, located at 3401 U.S. Highway 441 in Fruitland Park. Stay tuned for Ralph and River Jordan and friends, and we'll see you in 166 hours.